Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be doing the long-awaited Q&A. Now, we actually got a surprising number of questions. So before I kind of address these questions, I want to mention a few things. First, we have a Patreon. This is something that actually several people have requested. And it's actually been something that we weren't sure if we were going to do, but since we're starting to actually get a lot of comments on videos, and it actually is starting to become difficult to reply to every comment and to respond to every message we get on Instagram, for example, having a Patreon just helps us kind of get to the people who really want to talk to us. So if you want, consider supporting us on Patreon. You can do it for literally $1 a month. It's relatively cheap, but definitely don't feel like you have to. Free to enjoy the videos, but if you do want to go that extra mile, we'd really appreciate it. So anyways, let's get started with the questions. I should also mention that we're gonna kind of make this a recurring thing now. So I guess every few months we'll do another Q&A, and so we're gonna post a link to another Google form in the description of the video, and so if you have a question or something comes up, maybe save that link and feel free to drop some questions in there. So we got a bunch of questions here. Some of them are just garbage. Some people just sent in garbage, which I guess is to be expected with the internet, but let's get started with some of these questions or suggestions. So someone's suggesting we do transportation in Europe and Asia, as well as in Australia. That is something that we plan on doing. It's difficult to do new cities. One of the reasons is we have to do a ton of research. But for example, one thing that I think definitely we'll do in the future is something like future of transportation for some Australian cities: Sydney, Melbourne, Canberra, Brisbane, Perth. All the major Australian cities, I think you can probably expect future of transportation and transit videos on those, as well as their airports, because there's a lot going on, especially in like Sydney with the Sydney Metro, and Melbourne with the Metro Tunnel and all the kind of reconfiguration of their network. Those cities are awesome, especially like the Australian cities, and I feel like since a lot of it's easier to do cities in English-speaking countries. It's kind of unfortunate, but it's just the reality is that most of the people discussing the systems in other countries are going to be doing it in the native languages of those countries. And since my first language is English, it's easiest to do systems in English-speaking countries. That doesn't mean we won't do systems in other countries, but it's just a little harder. So we'll try to do those easier ones first before we get into the ones like in Germany and Japan, which we have done some videos in these countries, but yeah, that's something we will be doing in the future. Someone's commenting on the posters on the wall. There's no posters on the wall in our new place, but we have transit maps up on the wall. It's just nice to decorate. But if anyone wants to send me a transit map from their city, I'd happily put it on my wall. I think that'd be really cool. If you're actually interested in doing that, email me or message me on Patreon. Someone says, what's the reason you started your YouTube channel and how old are you? So I'm currently, I'll say I'm in my 20s. The reason I started YouTube was because I was passionate about transit and transportation. It's always been something that has interested me. And the thing is, I've always informally done a lot of research and a lot of thinking about transit and transportation. I'm really interested in geography, and I've studied in university. Well, I've done a lot of courses in it. But you know, the nice thing about creating a YouTube is you have like a formal thing that says, I've actually done something with that knowledge. And so sharing my opinions and creating videos and just kind of hopefully benefiting the world and making public transit and just transportation in general something that people understand better and that is more popular. If I can do that, that'd be fantastic, especially if I can just help people understand systems more and understand the planning process more. So that's kind of why I made my YouTube channel. I'm not in it for money or anything like that. But when it comes out, well, it is expensive to make videos. And for example, when we are planning on doing a lot more station focuses that aren't in Toronto, which is the plan, I mean, doing station focuses on Viva and Go, etc., it gets really expensive because a Go fare is like $5 each way. So if you're you're riding out just to go take shots of trains or to go do a station focus, it can be pretty expensive. So having some money from patrons to help pay for things like that would be pretty useful. Anyways, someone else is saying do a station focus of Bloor Young before the upgrades. Now I'm not sure you want to do a full station focus. Oh, actually, Bloor Young? Okay, I thought this was Union. In that case, yeah. I don't think Bloor Young is getting upgraded anytime soon. We will be doing a station focus on pretty much every TTC subway station probably by the end of the year. So it'll definitely happen before it gets upgraded, because it's certainly not getting upgraded within the next few years. So the next question is, what do you think of the Eglinton EMSF yard having the T branding? Could this be happening for all the line stations? So if you're not sure what this person's talking about, they're referring to the fact that the kind of maintenance and storage facility at the Eglinton Crosstown Yard basically has a T logo instead of having a Metrolinx logo or a Line 5 kind of roundel or a TTC logo. And I actually raised this on Twitter. A few other people did, because we're concerned. Why is this a thing? I don't mind having a logo like that. The issue is that everything in Toronto is branded TTC or Go or something like that. So not following one of those existing brands just does not make sense, especially considering there's already so many agencies in Toronto and transit is confusing enough. Adding another logo does not make sense. So I don't think it's going to be the case, because actually apparently it's already been covered up, and I think that the reality is that it was just kind of like a mistake. No one really thought about it. It's surprising and it's unfortunate, but that's what it seems to be. So next person says, what are your hobbies outside of technology and transit? You seem to enjoy travel quite a bit, going to Vancouver and Montreal, but anything else? So yeah, I'm from Vancouver originally. I'm currently in Toronto for university. So I do travel back to Vancouver all the time to see family and stuff, in Montreal because it's just close by. But outside of those, it's still technology related. I love computer programming. My degree is actually in computer science, so I do software development as kind of like the main thing I do. But that's a huge hobby. I love music. I love playing different instruments, guitar, piano. But yeah, I'd say those are some of my major hobbies. So the last question, set of questions, last person here is, so the first question is, what is your education? So I am, I guess, a computer scientist by trade / software engineer, whatever you want to call it in your in kind of your local area, whatever they refer to that as. Next question is, how did you get your interest in transit? So the reason I'm interested in transit is because I just find it interesting. I think lots of kids have like an interest in trains or cars or something, and for me it was kind of like that, I guess, as a kid. And then I think that transit is just really interesting, like looking at metro maps, the infrastructure of it, and like the engineering pieces are really super interesting to me. The design, like how can we build really high capacity systems? I love how metro systems, for example, are always unified in a lot of elements. Like the stations are all very similar, the trains are all very similar, and it's cool when there's kind of a unified way of doing things, but then everyone has their own sort of special sauce that they put into it. So that's a big reason that I've always been interested in transit. Also because I care a lot about the environment, and I think transit is maybe the #1 way that we can help kind of reduce climate change and help the environment. So next question is, where do you live and what transit routes do you use most frequently? Well, I'm not going to say exactly where I live on YouTube, but I do live in Toronto, and some of the routes I use a lot are the Stouffville line, Line 1, the Richmond Hill line. So those are some of the routes I use a lot. I use tons of different bus routes. I go all over the city, so I just use kind of whatever's available wherever I'm at. The final question here is, do you plan on making videos with you talking and discussing your experience at the location rather than recording a lot of footage and then adding voiceovers afterwards? So yeah, that's definitely something that we've thought about. It really depends. So people like Jeff Marshall, for example, do that, and then other people like Sydney Train Vlogs, which is another YouTuber I'm sure many of you have heard of, do not. I guess it comes down to a personal preference thing. I don't love being on camera as much as I'm on camera right now. But it's a little more high profile. So if you just go into a station and you have someone filming you, it's hard to talk for an extended period of time. I mean, even setting up your camera, right? Like, you draw a lot of attention to yourself. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, since you are actually like 100% permitted to film on basically any transit agency's property in Canada. Like, it's pretty much always their policy that it's okay. That being said, a lot of employees will give you a ton of grief for filming on the property, and it's just not worth the effort and the stress of having to deal with someone yelling at you or trying to kick you out of a station because you're filming. So, not sure about that. It definitely is potential. Like, for example, when Eglinton opens up, I'm sure a video of that will include footage of me like talking and stuff, because on days like that, it's totally expected that you're going to be filming. We unfortunately didn't make it out to Doors Open this year, but in future years when we do go to those events, that's also a place that you're kind of expected to film and take pictures. So it would be cool to do it there. Anyways, that's it for the questions. We actually got a ton, so I'm really happy. Like, thanks guys for asking so many questions. They're pretty solid questions too. Lots of suggestions too, which I really appreciate. We take suggestions seriously. Like, almost everything that is suggested to us, we do it. So I just really appreciate kind of your guys' engagement. So anyways, thanks for watching the video, guys. Comment down below what videos you want us to do. Check out our Patreon. Go follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and go ask any more questions you have in the Q&A link down below, and we'll answer those in a few months. Thanks, guys.